Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Greg Smith. I'm Executive Director of Florida Literacy Coalition. I'm joined today by my colleague, Stephanie Rogers, our Education Training Coordinator. It's our pleasure to welcome you to today's session, which is a first in a three-part series of webinar series that we're offering here over the next few weeks to explore creative ways that adult educators can use technology to enhance instruction and help their students develop more robust digital literacy skills. The first session is on navigating the digital world, empowering adult learners with essential tech skills. And then we'll be offering two additional sessions, as I hope you all already know about and have signed up for. One is going to be on the 4th of December. So we're taking the Thanksgiving week off, and we're coming back on Wednesday the 4th at 2:30, and then the last session, and that's on equipped adult learners strategies for effective digital literacy instruction. And then our last session will have a focus on AI in education and empowering teachers and learners through artificial intelligence, and that's going to be on Monday, December 9th at 2:30. So with that, I also want to thank the Florida Department of Education for their support in helping to make this session, all these sessions, possible. We will be sharing the PowerPoint slides with you a little bit later in the session in the chat, and certainly encourage you to add any questions as we go along into the chat. And we'll have an opportunity for Q&A later too, if you prefer to unmute yourself and ask your question that way. So with that, I'd like to turn it over, and we will do a little session evaluation at the end as well. So please stick around for that. We'd love to get your feedback on the session. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you our session presenter today, Rebecca DeJesus, who is a career specialist and longtime adult education instructor and coordinator for Orange County Public Schools here in the Orlando area. Rebecca has done a number of sessions for us over the years, both virtually like this and also at our conference. She always does a really great job. So I think you're in for a treat. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm super happy to see all of you here today. We've got a good number of participants with us. Like Greg said, the entire PowerPoint that you're seeing will be shared at the end of the session. So you'll have all the links and slides that you're about to see. And I'm also going to share the resource guide, which I will reference in the session. And you'll have my email. I always love to hear from other educators. So you see it on the screen now. You will also see it at the end of the presentation. I would love to hear from you if you have any questions about anything that I talked about today. Like Greg said, my history is, and my passion has always been teaching adult ed. I always say that teaching GED has been the love of my work life. I have also taught adult ESOL, and I just found my working niche in adult education. And I've always been a super techie. So I've always really enjoyed working with students on digital projects and just using the internet as a tool. So there's a couple things that I hope you get out of this session. And one is I hope that you just find one tool that you would love to use with your adult students. And another is that this session is a little bit different than some of the others that I've done in that I'm going to discuss a ton of resources that I hope will just stimulate your creativity and your interest in integrating digital literacy with your students. Because I think there's a big difference between teaching a digital literacy class and really finding a lot of opportunities for exposure to digital literacy, which I think is so important, especially for our older adult learners. I think our 16-year-olds are doing fine with it, and I think some of our older adults might need just that constant daily exposure to technology so that they can really learn to navigate this digital world. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to make quick reference to the two organizations. The Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy and Digital Promise put on a training for instructors. And quite a lot of what I'm going to reference today is going to come from a resource guide that they created. I'll talk about that a little bit and then give it to you. And I feel if I could describe what this resource guide is, it's sort of like an encyclopedia of ideas of how to incorporate digital literacy into your instruction with your students, whether you're a teacher or a tutor or a sub or just anybody who is helping students. There is just so many ideas out there. So why are we really here today? I'm going to ask you quite a lot of questions about this throughout this training, but I think that we all have a very clear understanding that there is a daily need for digital literacy and a daily need to be able to successfully and effectively interact with technology and online systems, whether we are checking out and paying in self-checkout at Walmart, or we are in our doctor's office and we have to engage with electronic health records, or if we're in a classroom and we're participating in an online program. I'm not sure that many people can navigate through life without interacting with technology. So a lot of these 3 parts will be about just finding some quick ways that we can help close those skills gaps for our adult learners who are struggling to navigate the digital world. So like was said before, this is a 3-part series. So just to let you know what's coming, today is session 1. So you haven't missed anything yet. I'm glad to see you today. We're going to talk a lot about student tools today. This session will be focused on students. Session 2 is going to be focused on teachers and some more productivity tools and tools that are really more on the teacher side or the tutor side. That we can use to help our learners. And session 3, we decided to dedicate to AI because it's certainly out now. There are so many different artificial intelligence tools, and there are some really effective ways to use those as an educator, and really effective ways to teach students to use those tools to their advantage. So we're going to talk about that in the 3rd session. I hope to see you all at all of the sessions. So when we think about defining digital literacy, and this is I'm going to throw a little theory into this conversation. A lot of what I was reading about digital literacy is really founded in just literacy in general. The ability to gather, read, process, and understand information. So when we think about digital literacy, we're not just thinking about the ability to use computers. We're thinking about the ability to use computers to effectively do something in life, whether it be entertain yourself, deal with healthcare, deal with education, deal with a work skill, life skill. A lot of this conversation is really just about how do we incorporate our normal adult education literacy skills into a digital setting so that we can help our students practice using these machines to do their daily work in their personal or professional lives. So we're going to talk about basic skills, navigational skills, making connections, reading, research, things like that, and a little bit about digital resilience. So one of the things that I always think about when it comes to teaching digital literacy is my father, who does not want to do anything with a computer. He doesn't want to touch a computer. He doesn't want to read an email. He always comes to us to help him with whatever he needs. And the thing about that is that in some ways that does limit his ability in the business world. It has limited him with banking. It has limited him with healthcare. And as he's trying to interact with these online systems, he ends up having to wait to get something done because he's waiting until he connects with one of his children, us. So I always think about my students when I think about my father, and I think, I don't want my students having to wait around for somebody to help them. I want them to be successful using these tools and feeling comfortable using these online systems by themselves. And so when I think about teaching digital literacy, I really think about anything that might help a student navigate the digital world. It could be for their personal life, for their business life, or anything like that. So when we talk about digital literacy in practice, I certainly have some thoughts about my students. I've just got a list here of a bunch of different types of skills that we might associate with digital literacy. Visual literacy, like are you able to create posters or do any sort of graphic design work? Can you even make a flyer? Are you able to use multimedia tools? Are you able to create videos, uh, banners, advertisements for your business? Can you navigate the internet to find what you need? Are you able to research? Are you able to find the menu for the restaurant that you're using? Are you able to process the information that you get from the internet to determine what's true and what's false? Are you able to even have the resilience to search the internet to actually find the answer to what you're looking for? Or are you going to be like my father and not want to read through 3 different web pages because you don't like to read on the computer? Are you going to protect yourself, your information, and be sure about internet safety? And are you going to be able to interact with the internet in an efficient way? So these are just a handful of skills. I have a question for you, and I'd like to see you post your answer in the chat if you have any ideas. In what ways do you find that your adult learners need digital literacy skills in everyday life? I gave you the example of my dad. He needs it for the bank, and he needs it for to communicate with his doctors and exchange information with his doctors. So what ways have you noticed that your students need digital literacy skills that they may or may not have? You can just post your answer in the chat if you can think of anything. I see some normal things already, right? Making appointments, checking emails, creating accounts. Banking for sure. I feel like banking is one of those areas where it's gone so digital, and doctor's appointments, everything. I almost don't remember the last time I actually filled out a piece of paper at a doctor's office. I feel like everything is electronic now. Certainly when they go to take tests, I always think about that as a GED teacher, because I have a lot of students that are very good at doing math problems when they can write it down with a pencil and paper, but when they have to read it on the computer, their eyes just don't see it all. They just don't, they'll skip over little parts of it. They won't see it on the screen. So I think about taking tests all the time. Applying for jobs certainly is one of those huge areas. I'm not sure there's that many companies that are processing paper applications anymore. Communicating with friends and family. I really like that one because I remember back in the day when we were purchasing phone cards, and now you can make international calls for free if you know how to use the correct apps that enable you to do that for free, but you have to know how to use them. Registration for classes. Even in corrections, you're saying that they use it for the TABE test. Renewing applications like driver's license, for sure. So we've got a lot of examples of just needs, okay, where none of you listed out things like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, right? Those are not requirements. You can completely avoid that social media in your life, and we can argue about whether or not you'd actually be better off or worse off. But the things that we have in this chat now are very simple, everyday things that adults need to do. So when you're thinking about, should I teach digital literacy? Sometimes as a GED math teacher, I think, well, no, I don't have time to deal with Microsoft Word with my students because I need to teach them the math skills. But really, when I think about this student's life, I think, no, I should probably make some time for digital literacy no matter what, because it's really going to help them as a whole person. Okay, so I'm going to make quick reference to the resource guide here. This is something that we will share at the end of the session. And what it is really just a very comprehensive document that is going to link a ton of different ideas and different websites and different resources for any educator to help incorporate digital literacy instruction into whatever setting that you are in working with students. So I have taken some of the things, some of my favorite parts of this, and woven it into the presentation today, and will do so for the next 2 sessions as well. But I just want to let you know that this resource guide, like I said, is kind of like an encyclopedia of ideas. So I hope that it sort of serves, or this presentation sort of serves as just sort of a way to get you to creatively think about the different areas where you might be able to incorporate some digital literacy instruction into your work with students. And you're going to see as we talk in this conversation, it's not just can they use a website? It's more like, can we make them more confident and comfortable using all the websites? So that's what I think this resource guide really does, or what it really did for me was just sort of expand my thinking about what digital literacy is. It's not just knowing how to use Facebook. It's knowing how to interact with all the websites and all the banking and healthcare and daily activities that any adult needs to do. Okay, so when we think about, and this is kind of, I'll move quickly through this. This is kind of just another thing. When we talk about digital literacy, very frequently we're talking about literacy. So reading comprehension, background knowledge, thinking and processing. And even some of this conversation will be thinking about other factors that may impact a person's ability to interact with school that day, which I know in adult education, we know that our adults have a lot of other factors. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. So we're gonna kind of go through a long conversation, and I hope that you're just getting a bunch of ideas about how you can incorporate this. All right, so I'm gonna kind of use, this is one of the things I got from the resource guide, and I'm gonna use this sort of wheel of literacy sections, literacy components to sort of guide the conversation throughout this session. So we're gonna talk about what it really takes to be a digitally literate adult learner. And you can see the different categories on the screen. We are going to go through those categories one by one and talk about some ways that as an educator, you can incorporate this type of skill into your classroom. So I'm going to give you some tools now. So another chat box question here. This is, you're going to think about yourself. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple guiding questions here. You see the guiding questions on the screen in gray. And the resource guide incorporates quite a lot of guiding questions for educators thinking, can my students do this? Do my students know this? These are the type of questions you could ask your student to try to gauge what level of digital literacy are they starting with? Where are they now? So the example for the technical section, the guiding questions are, do I know how to operate the technology device? Am I confident working with new applications, tools, or software? And am I able to move from one task to another with ease? Can they navigate different pages? Can they navigate different tabs open, or do they get lost? Are they able to learn how to use the new web-based tools very quickly based upon their prior knowledge of other web-based tools? Those types of things we're trying to figure out in this technical section. So my question for you in the chat is, in what ways do you use technical skills in your daily life, in academia, like if you are taking any classes yourself, or in this case, in your own classrooms or with your own students, or in employment? What ways are you using technical skills every day? I'm going to answer this question in the chat also. My example is that I use email, software, and data management tools every single day of my working life. There is no day in my working life that goes by that I am not using email software. I use the computer every single day. Managing multiple windows and tabs for sure. I think so many of us at work, especially teachers, especially anybody working as an educator, is bouncing between so many tabs all day long. Definitely using email also. Operating smart boards. I really like that one because I know that if you are in a teaching space where you're using different classrooms, the operation of each different smart board could be quite different. And you still have to be ready for students, right? I think about even something as simple as using my ability to type and being able to type quickly and even just use the keyboard quickly and how much that helps me save time at work. We've got whiteboards, emails, spreadsheets, using devices, sharing information. Okay, we've got lots of great answers to this. So here's some examples in each category of where technical skills may apply to our students. So for the life situation example, it might be using a touch screen to sign in at a doctor's office. I always think of if you've ever given blood at Quest. I know they have an iPad, you have to sign in on the iPad. I know that would take my father forever to do, and I'm very comfortable doing that. Academia could be clicking links in a blog for more information, having that resilience to continue the research, or even recognizing the link at all. Some of my students might see a blue underlined word and they may or may not recognize that it's a link. And employment, it could be typing in the time of entry and exit on a timesheet. I actually have an example of this in my daily life. One of the custodians that I work with, she does not post her own hours. We are all supposed to post our electronic timesheets, and she does not have the computer skills to post her own hours. So she's always asking one of us to help her with it, which we're happy to do. But that kind of limits you when you can't access your own employment information and you can't see your own hours and you can't do that for yourself. And I do think about her because I don't want my friend, she's my friend, to be limited in that way. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some of the first resources I hope that might inspire you to use these with students in this category of technical skills. We have hosted some digital literacy classes for students, and we have noticed that some students are at a literacy level that's even having trouble turning the computer on or using the mouse. So this first set of links is inspired by those students, and I work with many of them. I'm even surprised that sometimes their level of education, especially in ESOL, they may have a very high level of education in their home country and still have a fairly low level of digital literacy. So I'm just going to jump in and out of this PowerPoint for the rest of the time. I'm going to jump into some of these links and we'll see. This particular link was having issues. Okay, it's not showing well, but I'm gonna just use a different website. Give me just 1 second. I'm gonna jump in and out of a few different resources that I recommend that I find to be fast and easy to use with students. So the first one is a couple different things from North Star Digital Literacy. For any of you that are unfamiliar, Literacy Minnesota developed this website that has a ton of different computer-based skills practice. They have videos and they have interactive activities where the students have to click and interact with the program. And this is a paid product, but it is a very inexpensive product. $500 goes quite a long way with quite a lot of students in this product, but you can do some things for free. So I'm going to show you the assessments. I find this to be just a good tool for teachers. If you directed your students to take one of these assessments, so I'm just going to click on the basic computer skills section just to show it to you. it just
This
has the
video will
student
show you how
interact.
to take a North
It has a student interact with some basic skills. So I'm just going to show you how it works. Okay, it says
Click on the desktop computer.
I think you can hear it. It's giving verbal directions. It says click on the desktop. So if I get it right or get it wrong, it does not telling me yet.
Click on the laptop computer.
It'll tell me at the end. So I'm actually clicking.
Click on the touch screen in the picture.
Answering questions. Maybe I don't know this answer, so I click the
Click
wrong.
on the home button in the picture.
Maybe I don't know what I'm doing.
Click on the USB port.
I don't know how many students know what a USB is. And they can
Click
also say, I don't know. At the end of this
Click
quiz,
on the charging port.
let me let it finish talking. At the end of this quiz, it will give a student a percentage score. And it will also give a list of the basic skills that the student may or may not have. And if you do decide to purchase the program for your students, then they can then interact with actual lessons and content. But what North Star also does is it has a couple free lessons. So I'm going to show you that. This is the testing section. So you can see, I'm going to try to zoom in so you can read it. You can see that they're assessing a lot of computer basics here. The Microsoft products, which I happen to think are incredibly important, and just some other general technology skills. And so you can direct your students to take any or all of these assessments. I would do one at a time and, have everybody focus on that. But in the Build Your Skills section, which you can see at the top of this website, there are a couple computer basics lessons that students can participate with for free. And I do like this basic computer skills one because I do think as an instructor, sometimes it may be a little difficult to find the time to go over these basics with your students. I'm going to try to take you from some basics through some more advanced computer skills in this session. If you were trying to get your student to learn how to create their own resume using Microsoft Word or Google Docs, it kind of throws a spanner in your process if you are trying to teach your students how to use a mouse. So I like these independent basic computer skills lessons. And I'll just show you how it works.
You're probably sitting in front of a computer, right?
There's quite a bit of reading. It does read to you, and then there are going to be some interactive activities, which I just turned the sound off, so we are not bothered by it, but the students can listen to it. I do think that that helps with ESOL, and it helps with our students that maybe have a low level of literacy in general. And then in the same way that you saw on the test, it's actually directing you to click in many times and click this. Where does this go? Click the area. You see that it's directing me to click. So it's a way for students to have that self-paced type of instruction. So I'm going to move out of that. I'm going to show you a couple more of those. I've always been a fan of North Star. It's just a paid product, but there are plenty of free things in that. I have to take a moment to promote typing.com. Typing.com is actually one of the reasons that we don't teach typing in school anymore, and it's because it became free. So we don't always feel like we need to provide a class because it's already provided for free. This is the website, okay? I have no account. I'm just going to show you how fast a student can start practicing. I do encourage students to create a free account if they want to do this. This is an incredibly boring activity to do, and any of you that have learned to type in the past may understand that that's how it goes. Let me play this so I can skip it.
Hello there.
Learning to type is pretty boring. I'm going to show you how it works. It's showing you how to hold your hands correctly, and it's telling you what to type, right? So I'm typing J. The only reason that I bring this up in this session, even though it might seem a little obvious, is because learning to type with my hands in this position, as you see on the screen, and learning to type without looking has been one of the most valuable tech skills that I feel like I have ever learned in my life. It really increased my productivity. On a daily basis, I'm thankful for this at work. And I do think if you have students that are looking to maybe even get a computer-based job, maybe they want to be an administrative assistant, for example, they want to work in an office environment. Learning to interact with a keyboard is very, very useful. Okay. It gives you lots of feedback and stars, and it builds you up little by little. I think if I continue, I'm going to do 2 buttons now. So, right, if I get it wrong, it's mad at me. But it is teaching students how to have that muscle memory, which I think is a very useful skill. So I have to plug this website, even though I feel like it's so boring. All right, so computer basics, more computer basics, jumping back into that. This is another website, and once again, you're going to have all these links that has all these little mini tutorials that students can read through. I'm going to just show this one quickly because I feel like this is a ton of reading, okay? But it does give students a lot of an overview of those computer basics. And I'm going to jump into this digital skills library because this is one of the ones that I have always really liked. I'm going to type something very simple here in this search box. I'm just going to say mouse because I'm looking for use the mouse because I remember our digital literacy teacher saying they don't know how to use the mouse, you know. So I'll show you how this works. I find this to be a very appropriate pace if students have very limited computer skills. And I think that having that daily interaction with computers is so important, and really just building your skills up little by little. I'm sure some of you have seen one of your very young children or grandchildren be able to already use a smartphone, already can use a laptop, even though they're only 5, 6 years old. And it's because they're used to it. It's because they've been so exposed to it. And some of our older adults haven't had that. So they need to have that same process of that daily exposure. You can hear the video here.
After completing this learning activity,
And
you will be able to
in
demonstrate.
this, you're going to have a combination of videos, things to read, and activities that you have to complete.
To point a mouse, hold the tip of the mouse pointer over an object on
So
the
this
screen.
one,
Notice that
this one wants you to left click, so it will actually prompt you to do it. And if you don't do it, it's going to continue to give you practice and prompts so that you can actually
when you want
do
to
it.
select something on a computer,
Right.
move the mouse to move the pointer
So
over
I
the
find this
object
to be a very palatable, fast way that students can get some of those basic computer skills. And what if they practice this 15 minutes a day for the entire school year? That would certainly add up to a heck of a lot by the end of the school year. So I'm not trying to get any students to sit down and work on these websites for an hour or anything like that. I usually make a 10 to 15-minute goal, but consistently, many, many times a week, because that's what they need. Okay, so you've got those websites here. I really love this one, the Digital Skills Library at the bottom. That's the very interactive one. I actually think it's very similar to North Star, except for free. Okay, so next one, we're going to move into the civic section. And when we talk about this, we're talking really about, are you paying attention to how you're interacting with the internet in a safe way and in an appropriate way? So I think that in this section, a lot of these guiding questions are, protecting your online identity, protecting the persona that you're placing out there, and being careful about the information that you're putting out on the internet. And I think it's just a conversation for students. I was recently watching a video, and it was talking about the iPhone update. When you take a picture on your phone, if you have this setting turned on, it will show where that picture was taken. So if you take a picture of yourself in your house and you send it to somebody, they can see your house on the map. So it's something that, is that a conversation for some of the students that might be interacting with people online or online dating or just sending photos to people, because it's something that we may not realize is happening, but you need to teach your students how to protect themselves. Once again, going back to my dad, he would never even notice this feature. He would never figure out that this is happening. And he may be inadvertently sending out his address to people if he's trying to send a picture of a car or anything to anybody. So when we talk about this civics section, there's some specific examples. So in life, creating different passwords for different accounts and making sure that you have secure passwords. Maybe even just a conversation about, hey, are you protecting your password, or are you letting other people see it and use it? Are you signing into your bank accounts at the library? Are you making sure that you sign out so that nobody else can interact with your bank account? Things like that, just simple conversations that somebody with lower digital skills may not be considering to protect themselves. In school, can you provide references to avoid plagiarism? I know that's a huge problem in schools. Are you using other people's words and information in the sort of legal way or legitimate way, or are you copying and pasting other people's work and saving it for yourself? And in employment, securing and protecting your information, making sure that you will not be found in any sort of situation where you were creating some sort of security risk. It's just a conversation about safety. So I'm not going to spend too much on this time, but I am going to highlight two quick websites. Internet Safety 101.org is just a listing of a ton of different videos and things that you may interact with students. I'll talk about that one, but I do want to plug Khan Academy very quickly, because Khan Academy, we know math, right? But they also have a ton of other sections when you click explore at the top left. And there are a lot of life skills. Okay, there is an AI section now. There's a financial literacy section, an internet safety section. And what I really like about this is this is a very easy way for you to get your students to interact with a computer. You don't even have to be involved with it as a teacher. You can get your students to create their own Khan Academy account and just use this on their own. But the internet safety section is a really good look at how Khan Academy works anyway. You see these little white boxes at the top, and it tells you what lessons you've completed or started or partially mastered. And it's just going to take you through a couple different exercises and activities and ask you a couple very simple questions. And it's just a way you can get your students to interact with an online platform very easily. It's free for everyone forever. That's one of their mantras. And it's a way that you can get your students to just start to consider how to be good digital citizens and to protect themselves. And then the internet safety, I'll just show you very briefly. I don't think I think this is very obvious for teachers. There's just a ton of different conversations here about different safety considerations on the internet. So if you look at them, let me pick one. Okay, I'm going to pick cybersecurity. And I'm going to click the identity theft section. I think that definitely is a concern for there's a lot of scammers out there. So this is just like a very short reading session with your students if you wanted to discuss this with them. So it's just a bunch of resources. But I think it's important to have this conversation with students. Recently, we had an experience where I work for a very large school system, and I work on a team of 24 people, and we were all being emailed by who we thought was another teacher, and the email was exactly correct. It looked exactly like another teacher's email. And that teacher was asking us a lot about our jobs and what kind of education you need for our jobs and what certification you need for our job. And he was asking us all of these things. And then later they told us, this is an AI, it's a phishing bot. You guys, don't talk to this thing anymore. but I didn't know. And I'm very aware of internet safety and scams and everything like that. But this email, this looked exactly like it was a teacher from another school emailing me. The email was on point, but the technology is so savvy now. The AI is so savvy now that it's just, I think it's important to have a conversation with our students about being careful about protecting their own data. Okay, moving on to the next section. I saw communication being one of the things that you highlighted about the way that you use technology in your everyday life. I certainly use it all day long at work. I mean, we just send, I don't know how many million emails a week. But here's my question to you. In what ways do you use communication skills in life, academia, or employment? I am working at a high school during the day now, and a lot of my students email me, high school students. And sometimes I'm just shocked by the way they put together a sentence because it's doesn't even seem like it's a language. I don't know what they're saying. They're using all kinds of new young people words. And I just think, wow, this is how they know they need to communicate with me professionally. They know that I'm a teacher, right? Or maybe they don't know. So what ways are you using communication skills in your everyday life or at school or for employment? Please answer in the chat. We've got some guiding questions for students in this one. Do you understand your audience? I think that's a good one for students. Like, do you understand that when you communicate with a teacher, you're not texting your best friend? Are you able to share information in a concise way? I think some of my bosses don't know how to do that because they write us 25 paragraph emails and wonder why we didn't read them first thing. Are you able to effectively and professionally communicate? I know that's something that a lot of our ESOL students worry about. Perhaps they were a business person or a lawyer or a doctor, or they had a very high level of education in their language. So they know that they can't be as suave or smooth when they communicate in English. Maybe they think about that. Okay, I see somebody saying, I use emojis to communicate. I think one of the things that I use most of all is email. And I always try to, and when I think about communication skills, I don't think about the actual email. I think about the skill of being able to write in a concise way. Okay, students send you emojis. Emojis, that's what you're saying. Being able to use background knowledge when teaching a lesson. Yes. Communicating vocabulary. I'm glad that you brought that up because when I think about communication skills, I really do think about vocabulary and how limited some of my English speaking students are in terms of their vocabulary. Sometimes we do activities where I ask them to read, pre-read the article that we are going to read together and just find words that they don't know. And some of them are able to create incredibly long lists of words that they have just no understanding of. Email, text, and phone calls to communicate. You feel like the majority of your communication is by phone. I really like that because I would say the exact opposite. I feel like I'm one of those people that would way more prefer to communicate through email or text. I'm sure that says something about me, and I'm not sure it's saying a good thing either. Okay, so when we think about communication, I think a lot of our students are used to texting at this point. I think students of all ages are used to texting. But when we think about where we are in terms of communication, maybe in life we're thinking a little bit more further about this, like posting an image or a comment on social media. Maybe this is I need to learn how to advertise for my small business, or I just want to post a picture of my family Thanksgiving meal on Facebook, or I want to post something about the school that I just graduated from or got into. How do I safely interact with social media? How do I make sure that my account is not open and free for the world if I didn't want everybody to see my images and things like that? In school, we very frequently talk about participating in discussion boards. I'm not sure how often we do that in adult ed because I'm not sure how often we're using those types of digital tools in our adult education classrooms, but it's a really great way to talk about professional communication and ethical communication with either strangers or classmates who you only know professionally. And in employment, composing a professional email and a concise email so that people might actually read it. I always think about that. Okay, I'll see a couple other good examples like posting classroom announcements, discussion boards, WhatsApp texts. Yes. I started using Google Voice with my high school students. That's been an adventure because I'm always worried that they're going to text me the way that they text their friends. And then it's going to be on my phone and it's not going to be professional. And so I think that we kind of have to talk to our students about professional barriers when we communicate. So I'm going to talk about Grammarly because I think that this is an easy tool, and I feel like a ton of my ESOL students and GED students can benefit from this because they have trouble writing. So I'm going to show it to you very quickly. When you sign into Grammarly, I'll get out of it so that we can just do this from the beginning, okay? When you open Grammarly, it's going to ask you to sign in. It's very usable for free. Of course, there's paid versions. I recommend signing in with Google. And the reason that I say that is because I think that Google and Gmail and the Google Suite is a really nice big package that you can try to integrate a lot of those tools with students. So if a student doesn't have an email, I always recommend Gmail because I think it opens them up to a lot of other tools that a Yahoo email doesn't do, or, you know, things like that. So I've done a couple projects here, but I'm gonna click on one of these to open it. I had typed this little fake email and I was trying to type it in the way that I see certain people typing, or sometimes the way that a student might type to me if I feel that they were trying to be professional, and then maybe making a couple examples. So I just typed this email, and after I typed it, you can see the red suggestions are popping up. And what Grammarly does is it gives you different clues about how to fix your writing. And I think that this is a very easy tool for any student to use and really see an analysis of the way that they're writing. Now, I may or may not do it during this session, but I actually installed the Grammarly plugin on my computer through Google Chrome. And now every time I send a work email, it's making suggestions. And I didn't realize that I was so grammatically incorrect all the time, but but I'm not. But it's just always making suggestions because it goes by correctness, clarity, like, does it think that you are saying something in as concise a way as you can say it? It can rank you on engagement, like, is what you're saying interesting in any way? And your delivery. This is where Grammarly will try to make suggestions about the tone. So if you, especially if you are an ESOL student and you are trying to say something professionally but gently, and you don't have all the vocabulary that you need to do that, and you sound harsh or you sound aggressive, it will make some suggestions about that. So once it makes suggestions, you can choose to keep them or not by simply clicking on them. So here we see that we're missing, we have a grammatical error here. So if I click on it, It's gonna, I'm gonna copy this. I think it's better if I show you from the beginning. This one, I already used it. Okay, so let's say that I created this. Okay, all right, I typed it. It's going to give me suggestions if I hover over this about what I should do. So it's suggesting that I change that to tomorrow's with the apostrophe there because that's grammatically correct. So I can accept that or I can dismiss it. If I accept it, it'll change it for me. The next one is suggesting that I didn't spell this correctly. So it's suggesting here's some capitalization for PowerPoint because it recognizes it as a proper noun, right? So I can accept that. And I can also just kind of analyze where I made sense. So please call me when you can as soon as possible. Maybe that's a little wordy and not exactly written correctly. So please call me as soon as possible when you can. They're rewriting the same sentence. So you can get quite a bit done for free. Here we've got another rephrase. It's suggesting that I shorten it. Please call me as soon as you can. So it's saying let's make it shorter. So to me, this is a very low impact way of helping students sort of analyze their own writing. And I know that especially for ESOL students that are really looking for that business English, which may or may not be what we are teaching in our adult ESOL classes. I mean, we might be worried about language acquisition and not professional business writing. I think this is a great tool to help them analyze their own words and see, okay, here may be a better way to say it. Here's a grammatically incorrect error, or I like the delivery section because it kind of tells you like you're being too harsh or you sound weak, or it gives you kind of smiley faces or things like that. So it's just a way of helping students improve their professional communication. All right, next section, the collaborative section. This is something where it depends on how many students I have that struggle to use a mouse. I might not jump into this section if I felt like I needed to teach some more basic digital literacy skills, but perhaps my suggestions in this category might be slightly more advanced. Let's see how we do here. So just collaborating in general. Who am I in the group? Am I the leader? Am I the follower? Am I an active participant? How well do I work with others? Am I able to use technology to collaborate professionally with other people? I think about myself at work, and again, my team of 24 people, we have all these team drives, we have Google drives, we have Microsoft Teams drives, we have all these different documents that we all have to type on, and we have to share those digital folders. We have to share those digital documents. We have to respect each other, and I can't just sort the document just only the way that I want it because it's the team document. It's things like that. Are we able to work together professionally in a digital environment? So this is how this collaborative section might work. Maybe students need to schedule an appointment on a website. Maybe that's an example of them collaborating with the business in real life. I remember calling a restaurant recently and them telling me they had no tables, and I had already seen that online they did have tables, so I just went back online and booked a table. I guess if I wasn't willing to use the internet that day, I would have never gotten a reservation. It's just a very simple life example. Can students work together to complete a document on a learning management system? Again, I'm not sure how many of us are using an actual learning management system like Canvas or Blackboard or something like that for adult ed, but I'm going to give you some ideas about that. And in employment, can you use a webcam to foster community during a virtual meeting? Do you understand your background in a webcam? Are you being professional? Are you in a space that is appropriate to use a webcam and let other people see you? Okay, so a couple ideas about collaboration. I'm a promoter of Google, again, because it is a free tool that I find to be very accessible to a lot of people. I love Microsoft too, and Microsoft has a lot of cool collaboration tools. They're not as free as I find Google to be, which is why I'm gonna just discuss Google a little bit. The other thing that I really like about Google, and this is not to say Microsoft doesn't do this, but Google has a lot of digital training. So in this section and in general, Google's applied digital skills is almost like a curriculum that Google has put out. And you can just see some examples of the different courses that you can take with Google. So working with Google Docs, working with Google Sheets, Google Slides. I feel like if a student got through those 3 tutorials or those Google lessons, that's going to basically cover like Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, just Google's versions. And what I really like about that is, Microsoft Word is a paid product. I think most of us have it for free through work, but that doesn't mean that your students will, but they have Google Docs for free because you can have Google Docs for free. So I like to find those free products for students because I don't want having to pay for something be an accessibility issue. And these tutorials are very short. They are going to combine videos and little activities. I'm going to let this play for a second and pause it. Okay, so at the end of this video, or like in many parts of this video, for example, it's going to tell you, okay, this is what you need to do. Now that we've shown you, you need to practice it. And then they have on this right-hand side, instructions of what students need to do to practice it. So it's something that you could even show on the board and every student can go through it at the same time. And it could just be a little short lesson that you could do to get your students interacting with these spaces. And then, I'll just highlight Google Docs in general, because I think when we think of business basics, perhaps just, starting with a digital white space, like basically starting with Microsoft Word, to me, that's sort of the beginning. So Google Docs is also sort of the beginning to me. And if you open Google Docs, you can see at the top, it's giving students a lot of different choices to work with. And I'm just going to click on this essay one. This essay is a template. I was actually just recently reading the cells chapter in one of the science books with my GED students, and I just thought, wow, wouldn't it have been nice when I was reading that if I had told them, okay, here's a we're all going to find this Google Doc. You see that they've just put some nonsense words into this. What I want you to do is I want you to replace it with your notes about this chapter. So now I'm talking about note taking, which I think is a general memory literacy skill that my students desperately need. And I'm having them interact with note taking in a digital space. I'm having them interact with the keyboard in that manner. And it would have been a quick way for them to already have this template, and they could just do sort of a low-level skill of replacing these words if I wanted to really, restart typing my own language there. So I just find that Google is a good way to start students with collaborating. You could then also teach them how to share the document, and then we see everybody working on the same document, which may or may not be too much for them. I have done that with classes before where I let everybody into the same document, and it did get a little crazy because you have to have a lot of respect for each other, and you have to be careful about what you're doing when everybody's editing the same thing. But it's certainly a collaborative space where you can teach them about that. And I see we're asking if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. I know I feel like I'm talking too much at you, but the co-hosts will stop me if there's a pertinent question, and if not, I will add at the end. Okay. I do see one question. If a learner wants to get a GED and improve their basic computer skills, but types slowly, would a lesson plan based on first GED area be best instead of mingling both? I totally understand what you're saying in the question. This is what I think you're saying, Patricia. You've got this GED skill. Your learner is already struggling with that. Can you stop that instruction to take time for them to also struggle with digital literacy. I agree with you that that is a struggle for a teacher to think about, because I've taught a lot of math. Math is always a burden for a lot of my GED students, and it's hard for me to get distracted from trying to get them through the math processes so I can come over here and teach digital skills, no matter how passionate I am about it. But then I think about my dad, and I think about the fact that, and I think about my coworker that can't post her own work hours in our system, and she can't view her own paycheck because she does not have the computer skills to get in and view her own paycheck. She's been working for this company for 27 years. So my answer to you is that GED math test or that GED lesson as important as that? Is it equally important? Is the digital skill more important? Is the GED skill more important? Or are they both like so important anyways that we have to make the time for it? And what I've sort of resigned, especially in the midst of this conversation, is it is equally important for life, school, and employment that people are able to interact with computers, that it is that they have a GED skill. So that's where I've had to go with that. All right, let me jump forward here. Okay. Sorry, I think I've jumped off. Okay, we were here. Okay, so next area is computational thinking. And this, to me, is almost not a digital skill, but I want to tell you just a real fast story. I remember a teacher telling me once, she's an elementary school teacher, and she was telling me that we're pushing kids so fast that they're doing activities that they're not developmentally ready for. And I thought, and one of the things she said was, if a young student, an elementary school student, cannot draw a diamond, they should not be doing a worksheet. And it was a relationship between visual and tactile ability and your ability to understand the shape of a diamond, and how that applies to your ability to be able to see the whole worksheet. And I think that if you look at your screen right now and you see how many buttons and how many different tabs and how many different things are open on your screen right now, you can very quickly understand that somebody who has generally low literacy on paper or on the computer, they just have a low literacy level. They have a low computational processing level. This whole screen that we're looking at is too many things. It's got too many things on it. So I think about this when I think about trying to get students to unpack word problems or generally look at the screen to take their GED test. They got to look at the math here. They got to, their scrap paper is down here. They have to see all the negative signs. They have to see small things. And so I think that one of the ways that we build capacity in our students for that is through practice, is through having those frequent interactions with digital products so they get used to it. So situation examples of this, and then we're going to do an activity together. Make a personal budget on a spreadsheet. Something that I have found myself doing before. We're going to talk about quite a number of different ways that students can interact with that. Analyze a poem for tone, rhythm, and structures. Computational, I think of math, but this is any sort of analysis, really. Schedule an agenda for a planning meeting, right? Ways of interacting and sort of thinking and planning, right, might include in this section. So I'm going to show you something. It's called whiteboard.fi. If you are in love with Kahoot, then this is a same company, Kahoot product. And I'm going to try to get 10 of you to join me. I'm going to show you how this works very quickly before I'm sorry, I'm letting you see this whole presentation so small. Let me make this slightly bigger for just a second. Whiteboard.fi is a digital whiteboard space. And I also find that if you're a teacher getting evaluated and you want to score points on managing response rates, this is a way that you can see your students' individual responses, make them interact with a digital tool, could be their cell phone, and make them interact with just reading a screen for different information. So I'm going to show you 4 buttons, okay? 4 buttons, because with these 4 buttons, you can use this in your class. I'm going to type these 4 buttons. I'm going to use the student section. The important thing is to push the teacher whiteboard to the students. I will show you what that means. You can also erase the student whiteboards quickly in that section. Here's a trash can. It's to clear your own background. Here is an image button to insert an image. And I think that that is my favorite thing that this does. And you can also insert text. So I'm going to participate with this with you just so I can show you how this works. And I'm going to show you no account whatsoever. Okay, you just go to the website. I have no account. I have nothing. I have not set anything up in advance with the exception of having an image. I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm not signing in. Okay, you can do it. I'm just not. I'm going to type my name. I just want to show you like how quickly you could be using this with your students this afternoon. Especially if you're working in any sort of remote setting or you're teaching an online class or doing any sort of online tutoring. And I'm going to start this session. So I'm going to just do one quick example of this to show you how it goes. And if you would like to join, I can take 10 of you for free, right? 10 of you for free. So I'm going to have you scan the QR code here. You can just scan it with your phone. Okay, hopefully you can see it. I'll do it too. And it's really just going to ask you for your name, and then 10 of you can join this. So if you want to see how this works from the student side, just scan. Okay, scan the code. I'm going to see how many of you jump in really quickly. Okay, we've already got 6. And Robert's doing what students always do. Let me close this. Robert's already started writing on his. Okay, so maybe I don't want Robert to write. I'm going to show you one of the 4 buttons, right? Students. I can remove all students if it was something that I didn't want to see. But I can erase all student whiteboards. That way Robert's page is now clear and clean again. But you can see on the right-hand side that I have got all my students here. So I'm going to just show you one fast thing, okay? So I'm running low on time. I'm going to insert an image, and I have already created an image of this GED math question. And I'm going to, that's okay, Robert, that's okay. I'm going to ask you to write down on your whiteboard all of the numbers that you see. If you see a number, I just want you to use this white space right here. I want you to look at this word problem and write down your numbers, please. And if pro tip, if you turn your phone horizontally, you are going to have a slightly bigger screen to write on. You are going to see a pen tool on your left. Okay. So on your phone or on your computer, you will see a pen tool. There is one that looks like a pen, and that's the one you have to click on so you can write. Now, oh, you're all saying, okay, hold on. You're looking at my screen. You're looking at my screen. So I'm going to show you that other button, student section, push teacher whiteboard to students. Sorry, I forgot to do that. There you go. See now how every student has the question? Okay, that's what I wanted to do. So I want you to all see the numbers there. I want you to write down the numbers, any number that you see. Okay, any number that you see in this question. Okay, if you look at the left-hand side, I'm going to show you 2 things. So I can slide this over and make it real small. So if I was projecting this on the board and I don't want anybody to see what anybody else is writing, I can do it like that. I can make it much bigger. And I can say, okay, Robert looks like he's on the right track. Let me click on Robert. I'm going to make it a lot bigger on my screen, and I'm going to show everybody what Robert is writing. And I can see Robert has identified these 3 numbers. So one of the activities that I do with students for computational thinking is say, okay, 26 what? I see that you've identified 26 in this word problem. What is it? Is it $26, 26 bananas, 26 hours? We got to know what this number is. So I would talk them through unpacking a word problem. But as you can see, this is just a real fast tool to get everybody to participate with a digital product, a digital tool, read a word problem online. It took me seconds to get this onto the screen. It took me minutes to get you guys involved in this, and I can see everybody writing. And I would also be able to see if somebody is writing something weird, like, oh, I see this person is adding some symbols. Why is she adding these symbols? What does this mean? How does she know that it's this one? So I can talk about that. Okay, jumping back in. I know I'm running out of time. Okay, investigative techniques. I'm going to just mention this quickly, right? This is just general, can we find information on the internet, right? This is basically what this category is all about. So are students able to, for example, find a menu from a restaurant? Are you able to find credible research online? And are you able to find the best, cheapest place to purchase office supplies? Those are some real world examples. I put two suggestions here of just cool activities I've heard of before. One teacher said that every year he has his students use the internet to research and budget and plan a vacation. And every year he goes on the best vacation. And I just thought that's so cool because the student has already done all the work and planned the whole thing, and you see the whole budget, and it's really getting the students to interact with the internet for that. And I also just think about health information because every day of my life, I see a video that says, yes, do this. And then the next day it says, no, don't do that, you'll die. And then the next day, yes, it's so healthy. And then the next day, no, it's not. And it's very hard to interact with the internet and trust anything. So I think in this investigative section, if we were teaching this to our students, we would want them to be able to determine the validity of the information from the internet, especially with the way AI is coming out. Two more sections and then I'm done. All right, the productive sections, last one. So are you able to create digital resources, digital art, documents, and things like this? So when we talk about productivity tools for students, maybe in real life, they're creating a birthday invitation for their kids' party. Maybe they're making a YouTube video for information purposes or for a class project. And maybe they're creating a professional resume on LinkedIn, or they're creating a LinkedIn profile. So just one quick tool for this that I can't say enough about is Canva. And I'm going to show that to you very quickly. I think a lot of people know about Canva, but what I really like about Canva for students is that there's a lot of point and click in Canva. There we go. It's loading. Sorry, just give me 1 second. There's a lot of point and click, and I'm just going to grab something and show you what I mean. I'm going to click on this resume section, and I can just point and click any resume template. You'll see a bunch of different templates are popping up. And when I say that it's point and click, I mean, okay, let me say I'm going to be really fancy. I'm going to pick this fancy resume. You can see once I have picked it, as I'm hovering over all these different areas, it's prompting me that I can click on these areas to edit them. So I find this to be an easy tool for students to just point and click and retype. I do find that this is a more advanced tool, but because it's point and click on the different sections, they don't have to do a heck of a lot of formatting to interact with this. They just have to do a little pointing and clicking and typing. Is Canva free? Yes, quite a lot of it is free. Of course, they're selling pro there's like a pro area that does a little bit more, but there's quite a bit of Canva that is free. And I'm actually going to talk about Canva a little bit more extensively in the third section. So I'm just going to plant that here for now, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. All right. Whew, I feel like I talk so much. Sorry, I didn't leave that much time for questions to honor your time in the end of this meeting. But before you go, we have a couple things. So we do have the survey, and I will stick around and answer any questions that you might have. Sorry for talking at you so much. But before you go, quick exit ticket, because I always love to learn from other educators. Before you say goodbye, please use the chat and type your favorite digital tool to use with your adult education students. Could be a website, could be an app, could be anything that you are using that you have found success with. If you want to throw it in the chat, that way the rest of us can see your good ideas. I'd love that. And then I'm going to stick around for questions. You have my email on the screen, so if you'd like to reach out to me for any reason, I am on email all day and all night, as we have discussed before. So please let me know your ideas and thoughts, and I'm going to turn it back over to Greg so that we can wrap it up.
Okay, well, thank you, Rebecca. Lots of great resources. Thank you for sharing. And thank all of you for participating and sharing some of your resources that you're using as well. We do hope that you'll join us back for sessions 2 and 3. Session 2 is on the 4th, and session 3 is on December 9th. I also posted another webinar that we have coming up on writing, specifically focused on writing for the GED, which is coming up on December 13th. So please do go to the jot form there that Stephanie posted and give us your evaluation for this session. We appreciate that, and look forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we will stay on for a few more minutes if you have any questions for Rebecca. Thanks. Any questions? And you can unmute yourself too if you want, if you prefer.
We'll make sure we share the slides from today and the resource guide with you in the chat. Naomi, I see that you're saying you're anxious to try whiteboard.fi because the Zoom whiteboard is cumbersome. I just want to talk about that for a moment. I also sometimes get a little bit of digital resilience fatigue when I'm working with students, because sometimes I think, wow, wouldn't it have been easier if I just used a worksheet today instead of getting them to interact with the computers, and then the internet breaks down, and then it's slow, and then this and that. But I do want to go back to the conversation about it's so important that our students feel comfortable using computers, that we must persevere as educators. And also, students will never care if something breaks. Our internet goes out once a week, and the students don't care. They don't get in a huff over it. It just makes the teachers nervous because we want to professionally present ourselves. And so if we're using a digital tool, it freaks us out if it goes wrong. But you know what? Have a backup plan if it goes wrong, and don't worry, because the students are not going to be worried about it at all. So we just have to, calm ourselves down sometimes. I see a lot of great ideas in the chat too. A lot of you are naming things that I really like also. Aztec and North Star, Canva, Google Classroom. You've got some great things. Dave's ESL Cafe is actually something that I've recently explored. I really like that tool. I think that's a cool area. Okay, and Stephanie's going to send you the two, in case you're not looking at the chat, Stephanie's going to send you the two resources, the resource guide and the slides from today with all the links through email. So you will have that.
Okay, very good.
Any questions from anybody? News and levels. I'm going to have to check that out.
News and levels. At a website, Shanice?
Yes, so it has like a low, intermediate, and high. So you can click on which level your student is at, and the sentence structure, the grammar is more complicated as you go up. And then it also provides like comprehension questions and exercises for them to write about what they read and different things like that.
I love that. I love when you can differentiate the levels. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yes,
Okay, sounds good. That's looks like newsandlevels.com, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay, great. Thanks.
Let me check.
All right. Well, I appreciate again that you all have joined today. It's always wonderful to connect with other educators. I will stick around if you have any more questions. If not, I appreciate you coming today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I imagine you're counting down the days to Thanksgiving, so I hope you have a very good Thanksgiving feast. And I'll see you at the next one, which is going to be the week after Thanksgiving.
That's good. Thank you.